In July 2010, a 57-year-old outdoorsman hiked into Oregon's Mt.Hood National Forest for a solo fishing trip and never came back. His camp was found untouched, his gear left behind, and despite a massive multi-day search, no trace of him was ever discovered. In this episode, we explore the strange and unsettling disappearance of a man who knew the wilderness and still vanished without a clue. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday and happy August. I am on my last trip of the summer. When you're listening to this, I will be enjoying Stanley, Idaho, and the Sawtooth Mountains with my husband and our corgi named Gus. I want to say thank you so much for listening. My name is Elise, and I'm your host. Now, today's case takes place in Oregon, near Mt.Hood. I've been in this area, and honestly, it might be some of my favorite forest and area in the entire nation. Now, I haven't visited everywhere, but I really, really love Oregon. I have camped in this area, and I did a short hike. Actually, I was really hoping to see Mt.Hood in all of its glory, but it was actually so foggy the day that I went. It was like the first weekend in October in 2021, and it was so foggy, I did not get a good view of Mt.Hood. I hope to go again one day, maybe next year. I love the Lost Lake area. It's amazing. And I want to recommend to you my favorite trail, or the trail that I was going to do but couldn't. This trail is called Top Spur and Timberline Loop. It's 2.2 miles, rated as moderate with a 626-foot elevation gain that has stunning views of Mt.Hood. I also really like the Trillium Lake Loop. It's 1.9 miles, it's easy, and only 26 feet elevation gain. And of course, Lost Lake Trail or anything around in that area. Now, let's start with negative reviews today. Jafar said, "It's not as beautiful as I heard. It's not safe at all. Nobody at the register office, nobody asking about questions, rather mentally sick people lurking around. One was hit my car by a sharp tool." Interesting. Mark said, "This place is awful. Stay away. No bathrooms. So many spiders," in all caps. "There is no safe time of the year to go back. Go back to California." Corey said, "Worst forest ever. Too much dirt. Also, it's really cold and there's no place to buy things." Lori's negative review just said, "Mountain lions." So, interesting. I already talked about my favorite trail. Super cool trail to see Mt.Hood. I hope to do it again. Like I said, when I did, it was so foggy, but this trail is very, very, very beautiful, even without Mt.Hood in the background. So let's talk about Mt.Hood National Forest. It's located 62 miles or 100 kilometers east of Portland, and it's in the northern Willamette River Valley. The forest extends south from the Columbia River Gorge across more than 60 miles or 97 kilometers of forested mountains, lakes, and streams. It's over 1 million acres and was established on July 1st, 1908. The forest includes and is named after Mt.Hood, which is a stratovolcano and the highest mountain in the state at 11,240 feet. Now, in 1940, it was actually under consideration to become a national park, so it might have been Mt.Hood National Park, but the proposal did not materialize. A modern campaign opposed to logging in the national forest revived the push for the national park status, along with the Columbia River Gorge. Now, fun fact, the 1952 film Bend of the River was partly shot in the Mt.Hood National Forest. And in 2010, the Mt.Hood National Forest was honored with its own quarter under the America the Beautiful Quarters program. Now, Mt.Hood National Forest is one of the most visited national forests in the United States, with over 4 million visitors annually. Less than 5% of the visitors camp in the forest. A lot of people just go to see pretty sights and day hike. The forest contains 170 developed recreation sites, including the following: Timberline Lodge, which was built in 1937, Lost Lake, Burnt Lake, Trillium Lake, Timothy Lake, Rock Creek Reservoir, and the Old Oregon Trail, including Barlow Road. Other common recreational activities in this national forest include fishing, boating, hiking, hunting, rafting, horseback riding, skiing, mountain biking, berry picking, and mushroom collecting. A portion of the Pacific Crest Trail passes through this forest on the flanks of the mountain. Mt.Hood is also a popular destination for mountain climbers. There are 8 officially designated wilderness areas within Mt.Hood National Forest, and they actually all add up to just over 300,000 acres that are a part of the National Wilderness Preservation System. So, these wilderness areas include Badger Creek Wilderness, Bull of the Woods Wilderness, Clackamas Wilderness, Lower White River Wilderness, Mark O. Hatfield Wilderness, Mt.Hood Wilderness, Roaring River Wilderness, and Salmon Huckleberry Wilderness. Whoa, that was a lot for someone that used to go to speech therapy for their R's. Got a little tongue-tied there. So Mt.Hood National Forest is amazing. It's so pretty. There are lots of hiking trails. Everybody from Portland and surrounding areas, this is their escape. When I lived in Oregon, I lived in Southern Oregon in Medford, and I actually went up to Mt.Hood area several times, even though it's like 5-hour drive, because it is just that good. The first time I went, my husband and I and our dog, we camped outside of government camp, and I'll just say this was years ago, but there was the most amazing sushi truck, which is so weird to say, but it was so good. Lots of very pretty lakes, lots of very amazing hikes, and we loved our time at Lost Lake. It was just simply amazing. And just for you guys that might go here, Lost Lake has these like salamander/newts, and they are poisonous. So do not touch them. Unlike what I did in 2022, it wasn't an accident. I decided to catch one because they were just swimming in the water, and I was holding it, and I show this kid that's by me. I'm like, hey, you want to see this? I just caught it. And the kid was like, oh yeah, is that the brown and red thing? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, those are poisonous. And then I said a nice cuss word and threw it back in the water. So it was unharmed. But just a reminder, don't touch everything that you don't know what it is. Because when you're in a new state, you don't know what is venomous or poisonous or not. So I learned my lesson that day, but just fun fact about that lake. Yes, there are cute little salamander things that swim around, but they also have a toxin. So just a heads up. In 2010, the same year that Mt.Hood National Forest received its own quarter, a 57-year-old named Robert Bissell left his home in Portland, Oregon, to go camping in the Roaring River Wilderness area, and he went missing. Now, this happened on July 12th, 2010, And he was actually camping near Rock Lakes above Estasada, Oregon, which is to the southeast of Portland. Now, Robert was an experienced backcountry camper who liked to hike alone in remote areas to enjoy, the wilderness and what it was for fishing, and, of course, and most importantly for Robert, the solitude that nature can give you. He filed a wilderness use permit with the U.S. Forest Service, and on that permit, he, put his exit date or out of the forest to be on July 16th. So he was planning to spend 4 days out there fishing, enjoying solitude, and just connecting with nature. Robert parked his white 1989 Nissan Sentra with Oregon license plates at the Trailhead 700 near Rock Lakes and hiked around 5 miles in to set up his camp off Trail 512 near Middle Rock Lake. Now, those kind of like, numbers. Well, Robert knew this area extremely well, and so this is something that he did pretty often. It's not like he was going on like a soul searching mission or, it's nothing like that. He was going out with a purpose to fish and enjoy the peace. It appears he departed his campsite intended to be gone only for a day or less because he had left his sleeping bag and gear at his campsite, and the only thing that he took with him was his fishing rod and tackle box. Pretty normal, tons of people do this, not anything weird. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would he leave his campsite? Aren't people going to disturb it? No, Robert was backcountry camping, so he's not at a designated campground or somewhere where there's going to be a campsite. He was doing what's called dispersed camping in the backcountry, so he is kind of set up all by himself. Now, on July 19th, Robert's brother went to his campsite, but Robert wasn't there. His brother left a note on his car asking him to contact his family. And if you remember, he was supposed to be back by July 16th. So this is 3 days after Robert would have been, late. He wasn't hiking, but still like late arrival. His brother visited the campsite again on July 24th, and again he couldn't find Robert. So the authorities launched a search the next day. Robert was reported missing after his brother went to the campsite on both days and found literally no sign of him. It was exactly the same the second time that his brother visited as it was the first time. So Robert's brother was concerned and immediately alerted authorities, and they started searching as soon as they could. On the morning of Sunday, July 25th, 2010, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Search and Rescue Team began a large-scale search that lasted for 8 days. The field search focused on the Roaring River Wilderness, Rock Lakes Basin, and the surrounding trail system and lakes, including Serene Lake, Shining Lake, and Shell Rock Lake. Police located campers who spoke to a Northeast Portland fisherman shortly after he hiked into a wilderness area in the Mt.Hood National Forest on July 12th. So there were witnesses that did see Robert in this area. Some other campers reported to rangers that they had met him in the Roaring River Wilderness area at the beginning of his trip, about 20 miles southeast of Estasada. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Bissell left a note spelling out when he would be heading back into the Roaring River area and when he expected to return. These campers told deputies that Robert remarked on how much overgrown the area had become since his last visit. So we have multiple people that did meet Robert and had a conversation with him, which again is not out of the normal when you're recreating outside. Even though you go to escape and be in solitude, you know that there's other people there also doing the same. And bumping into them and having a little conversation with them is not strange. So I don't think it's weird that campers and other hikers said that they ran into Robert. And the one thing that he said that they remembered is he remarked, man, this place has really grown, it's kind of overgrown compared to my last visit. So Searchers believed that he set up his camp, then went on a day hike to fish at the Rock Lakes Basin because, like I said earlier, his rod and fishing tackle were not at his campsite. So the reason why Robert basically went out was to fish because all of these lakes have a lot of trout. And searchers, they actually posted flyers in campgrounds, trailheads, ranger stations, and throughout the nearest town asking for information about, if you've seen Robert, contact this number. And Sergeant James Rhodes of the Clackamas County Search and Rescue Unit said that Robert might have suffered a severe head injury while trekking around the Rock Lakes Basin in the Mt.Hood National Forest. That's kind of an off the wall theory, but usually when people go missing, this is a theory that gets tossed around a lot. Now, Sergeant Rhodes and his team were confident in finding Robert as the temperatures around his disappearance. They were cold, but they were not freezing. This is what he said, Sergeant Rhodes. It gets chilly at night, but it's not the kind of weather that pushes people into hypothermia. Unfortunately, there was no cell phone coverage in this area, so the fact that, Robert might have had his cell phone with him would not have helped a lot. And let's not forget, this was 2010, so technology has changed a lot in the past. How many years has it been? 15 years? There were no satellite phones. I mean, like your iPhone, the new ones have the satellite thing. That did not exist back in 2010. Now, these search efforts, they included hundreds of volunteers and 60 to 70 professional searchers, 2 fixed-wing planes, a helicopter, search dogs, mounted horse patrol, manned trackers, ATVs, and 4x4 vehicles. They used the helicopters to search the meadows and the shorelines of more than a dozen lakes in this basin. Surveillance planes searched the area, and they flew grid patterns and canine search teams from the Yamhill County and Clark County, Washington. They combed the ground along with teams from the Air Force Reserve 304th Rescue Squadron and the Pacific Northwest Search and Rescue. So there were a ton of people coming in to search for Robert because hopes were high. It was warm and not too cold during the night, where they were nervous that if he was injured and out there, that he wouldn't succumb to hypothermia. It wasn't really that part of the year just yet. Now, these searchers generally worked in teams of 6. They did follow a standard search and rescue procedure, moving into new areas, then shouting and blowing whistles. They then waited quietly for a response, but that response never came. They extensively searched all of the surrounding areas, and the searches showed no indication of Robert's whereabouts when it officially ended on August 3rd. The terrain in this area is extremely rocky and rugged, and 3 of the 4 search horses even threw their shoes. That is how intense this terrain is. Now, during the search, teams did discover several items that they might have thought were Robert's, but each time they brought these items to the base camp, his brother Michael said that they actually weren't Robert's. Searchers also located other campers who said they'd spoke to Robert as he set up his camp. So remote, but not super, super remote. None of Robert's clothing or fishing gear was located. His body has never been found, and it's like he had vanished, never to be seen again. Some of the theories include suicide, which his family deems unlikely. I kind of point towards he got lost and, suffered and probably died of exposure, because his fishing rod and tackle box were not found either. And I think that if he would have gotten lost and knew that he was lost, he would have set that stuff down and tried to get out, and we would have found that. It's possible he had a medical emergency or fell down a crevasse. People have also said he might have planned his disappearance, which his family says is not likely. Foul play has also been suggested. It's possible, but there's no evidence of foul play. Bissell is presumed to have become lost or injured in the wilderness, probably shortly after he began his trip on July 12th. So, I want to give a description of Robert. He was from Portland, Oregon. He is a male whose race is white. He was born on August 19th, 1952, and if he were still alive today, he would be 71 years old. At the time of his disappearance, he was 5'5" and weighed 135 to 150 pounds. He had gray hair, green eyes, and he also had a full beard. If you have any tips or information about Robert's disappearance or whereabouts, you can contact the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office at 503-723-4949 or 503-722-6746. But this episode is not over because lots of people have gone missing from this area. Lots of people have been found deceased. Another case that kind of happened near-ish this area happened in 2014, 4 years after Robert's disappearance. Okay, this is aside. I just realized that I said Willamette incorrectly. I'm so sorry. I know that that's the correct pronunciation. So earlier in the episode, I think I said Willamette. I know it's Willamette. It's just, I hate reading things off of the paper because then I look at how they're spelled and not how they're said. Anyway, so our next person to talk about is Garen Kirk. I've heard his name pronounced different ways, but on the news they said Garen, so that's what I'm going to call him. Now, Garen was 31 and an experienced outdoorsman who often also took solo trips in the woods like Robert Bissell. He left his home on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014 to hike in the Mt.Hood National Forest and planned to return on December 6th. However, he didn't leave any details about this occasion with his family members. His sister filed a missing persons report on Sunday, December 7th, but the search was delayed until the next day, December 8th, because search and rescue crews couldn't be dispatched until the vehicle was located to establish a start point, which makes sense. An estimated 170 volunteers from across Oregon joined in the search around Frog and Twin Lakes, which lasted for around 8 to 9 days and was coordinated by the Wasco County Sheriff's Office. They had sniffer dogs and surveillance aircrafts with heat-detecting infrared technology. The mountain's weather was primarily wet throughout the search and just slightly above freezing, with unusually low snow levels for December. Now, I don't know who would go out in December in this area because it's so snowy and the weather is largely unpredictable. So Garen felt comfortable doing that, and he went missing as a result of who knows, but I assume the weather was definitely a factor in his disappearance. After a large search, there was still no sign of him, and authorities called off the official search on December 15th, 2014. Despite the search efforts, one of the largest in Oregon's history, no trace of Garen was found. It was strange that his cell phone was pinging to the southwest of Frog Lake, in the direction of Clear Lake, but search efforts seem to have focused on the area to the northeast, which is in the area of Twin Lakes, unless the media misreported the location. Now, this is a similar story to Robert Bissell's because we have two very experienced outdoorsmen setting off for 3 to 4 days and never being seen again. But unlike Robert's case, in 2018, some lost hikers found a wallet in a ravine about 1 mile from where it was believed that Garen disappeared, and they also found something that looked like human remains. The hiker found Garen's driver's license in the wallet, and they took it to local police. The bones were compared to DNA from family members, and just recently in June 2022, the remains were confirmed as Garen's. Now, take note that the people that found these remains were lost. So these remains were probably not in the search area. that searchers were originally looking in, and they wouldn't have been off of a trail either. Now, his family member posted on Facebook, quote, "The day we've all been waiting for, confirmation of Garen's passing. About 4 years ago, lost hikers happened upon his wallet in a ravine about 1 mile from where we thought he went missing, and what looked like human remains. They brought the driver's license to local police, and it was Garen's. Fast forward, my DNA was collected to be processed with these bones, and today I received the call from the sheriff's office that it was a match. This closure brings a myriad of emotions, but most of all, peace knowing all the signs we felt were him all along." So, Garen's story, his family had closure, or answers at least. But for Robert, his family still doesn't have any answers or closure. Robert Bissell knew the woods. He wasn't some lost tourist in the trees. He was experienced, prepared, and just planning a simple fishing trip. But even the most seasoned outdoors people can disappear without a sound. That's what makes his case so unsettling. No signs of struggle, no gear misplaced, no clues, just his quiet campsite in the heart of Oregon's wild country, and silence. The forest doesn't always give answers. Sometimes it just takes. Robert's story is a reminder that nature, as stunning as it is, isn't always safe, and that the line between adventure and tragedy is thinner than we like to think. So if you're heading out there, whether it's for a weekend hike or a day on the river, respect the wild. Tell someone where you're going. Take more than what you think you'll need, and never underestimate the unpredictable. As always, recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.